Welcome to Websites for Beginners. This is JP and we are looking at a Brizy Pro feature called Role Manager. To understand a little bit more about this feature, I'm going to show you a few things here in this WordPress site. Now, I have created over here a landing page that is a promotion for an expedition to the Arctic or Antarctic or some snowy place. And the final page looks like this. It's just a full page. And then there will be two buttons here that will take you to either a place where you can find out more about it, or you can join an upcoming webinar that will explain more. And here is just some Latin text. Now, I am just the designer. I'm just creating the website, but I'm not the person who knows anything about this expedition. So what I want to do is I want to have somebody else come and put in all that information over here in this area. So I'm going to create another user for my WordPress account so that another person, maybe the expedition leader, can log into my account and that they can then edit and put in all that information that is needed there in English. So what I need is to add another user. Right, so you go to create a new user, you have to do it over here on the users panel. You've seen it a lot of times, not sure if you've ever used it, but you are already in here. And to see yourself, you click there on all users. So I can see myself there. And very important to note at this moment is over here, is this one that says administrator. Now the administrator is a role. It's like a position in any company. On this WordPress site, your role is administrator, which means you are the big boss here. You can make and do whatever you want on this site. So now you want to go and create a second user, another person who can also sign in onto your website so that they can access that page and that they can make changes to the text. And that, of course, you are going to follow with the add new. And we are going to give him a username. We're going to call him Frankie S. Frankie S. That's his username. And his email, I'm going to use ideas@websites for beginners. And his first name is Frankie. And his second name is Sparkplug. And then no website for him. And then we're going to send him an email about his account so that he can get the email and know he has to log in. Now comes the next decision, the role. Remember, my role is administrator. I can do whatever I want on this website. But I don't want Frankie to go ahead and change things on this website. I only want Frankie to change the text in that page. And now you can choose from these other roles that exist: subscriber, contributor, author, and editor. Now these three, author, contributor, and subscriber, they are out. An author only has access to posts, not pages. A contributor also only posts, and a subscriber's got access basically to nothing. So the only other one left that we can give Frankie as a role is an editor. We don't want to make him an administrator. You know, he's going to maybe ruin my website, but we're going to make him an editor. And then we're going to say add new user. Now, the first thing that's going to happen is that we are going to add Frankie over here. That is his username. There is his name, his email, and his role is editor. The second thing that's going to happen is that WordPress is going to send an email to Frankie and tell him, hey buddy, you have been added as an editor to this website. So I'm going to open the Outlook on my computer and let's see if that email has come in indeed, so that we can see if Frankie is indeed been sent an email. So we just wait for this one to sync quickly there with our WordPress account, and here it comes in. 2 emails. The first one says new user registration on your site, website for beginners, username Frankie's, and there we go. This is my email. This is actually to me. This is not to Frankie. This one over here is to Frankie. Username Frankie S. To set your password, visit the following address. So what Frankie has to do now is he first needs to go and set up a password. If he clicks on this, it's going to open my Edge, my Microsoft Edge. And the reason I have to do that is because I'm logged in on my Chrome. I cannot have Frankie also log in from Chrome. It's going to make things a little bit hicky and confusing and crazy. So I'll be using Edge for Frankie. I am in Chrome. But let's make this a easy one I can remember for now. I'm going to call it Frankie _ Frankie _ 1234. And it is a very good password. And you do know what we all do after we have made a password. The first thing we do is we write it down, which we shouldn't be doing. But tell me if you don't do that. Okay, and now Frankie is going to say reset his password. Okay, I'm going to close it again. All we've done now is that we've set up Frankie's password to the WordPress account. So I want to close it so you can see again what we are going to be doing. For Frankie to log into the WordPress account, he has to click here on the website, synapses-consulting.com/wp-login.php. If he clicks on this, it's going to open again let me click on it. It's going to open again my Edge. And now we see this very familiar login window into WordPress. Right, so Frankie has to log in. He can either use his email address or his username. Remember, he is Frankie S. And then his password is Frankie. And I'm going to click here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, let me do it again. Frankie _ 1234. And now I click here to see if I did it correctly. Yes. And now Frankie will log into the same website that I am in. So over here on Chrome is me. Over here on Edge is Frankie. And the first thing you will notice is if you look here on the left side, you will see I've got far more settings than Frankie has. Frankie doesn't have access to many things. He is only an editor, remember? I am the administrator. I can do much more. Now Frankie can go and input all that information on that page that I want him to change. So Frankie will go here to Pages, All Pages, and then he will go here to Expedition Landing Page, and then, like natural, continue to edit with Brizy. And once he is here, he can now go in here and change the text. But there is a problem, because Frankie knows absolutely nothing about website design. So Frankie, while he's typing here, he presses delete and oops, and it's gone. So what can we do to allow Frankie to change the text, but not change the layout? You know, we don't want him to go and change our layout and then maybe drag one of these things over there. We wanted to keep it exactly the layout as it was, but we only want Frankie to change the text. And the way we are going to do that is by restricting his access to the Brizy page builder in Brizy. So let's go back to WordPress here, and remember this is Frankie now. And Frankie is in WordPress as well. So I'm just clicking here. Take us back here, and I'm going to go to All Pages. Now let's go back to my page where I am as administrator. How am I going to restrict Frankie's access to my page so that he can only input the text, but he cannot make any changes to my columns, to my layout, to my elements, or my blogs? And this is what we're going to do. You are going to go to Brizy over here, Role Manager, click on that, and now go to Role Manager. Now Frankie is an editor. At this moment, he's got full access to the Brizy template and the Brizy builder, which means that by full access, he could do just like I can do when I go into Brizy and build a page, which means he can build pages, he can bring in columns, he can make rows, all those things. But I don't want him to do that. If I put him on no access, he won't be able to do anything. And I also don't want that. I want him to be able to change the text so that he can input the text for the information. And we are going to give him this one called limited access. Now I save the changes. Frankie's role has now been changed. He is still an editor, But now whenever he accesses any page, he will only have access to the text. He won't be able to change the layout or the pictures. Let's go to Frankie's page on Edge, and I'm just going to refresh this so that that information about his status can update. For you, it may look like nothing has changed. But if Frankie now clicks here on Expedition Landing Page, he will be surprised to discover there is no Edit with Brizy. It's not there. Bye-bye now. So how is he going to be able to edit the text then if he cannot get into the page builder? And the way he's going to do that is to go back to all pages. And here on the right, he's going to click on Edit with Brizy. Now Brizy is going to open. And you will notice there are no elements or buttons on the left. You cannot see the layout. You cannot see the paragraphs. All you can see is the text. And now Frankie can go in here on the text and he can begin to type to his heart's content the things about this expedition. But he cannot change anything regarding the layout of this page. And this is one of those features where the role manager comes into play. When you are working with clients or you are working with other coworkers and colleagues or friends, and you want them to have access to the website so that they can input the information, but you do not want them to mess around with the layout. Now, in a sense, these roles are very limited. There's only a few roles here. And what you actually can do, if you're in the mood for it, is you can go and find another plugin for WordPress that will allow you to create roles to your choice. Over here, you're going to search for user roles. And then on this page, you can choose any of these that you think are good enough. I've tested these two called User Role Editor and User Roles and Capabilities. So let's install User Role Editor. And once it has installed, we're going to activate it. The normal 2 steps for any plugin. Now, after activation, I can go and I can create my own roles. So go again to Users, and now you will notice there is a new drop-down section, say User Role Editor. And if I click on this one, it opens that editor for me. It looks a little bit crazy at this moment. You know, what are all these checkboxes? But do not worry too much about this now. This is a thing for another tutorial. What you have to notice though, if you go up here to this drop-down menu, you will find the 4 roles that we've been working with: author, contributor, editor, and subscriber. Remember, Frankie, he is an editor. But I want to create a special role for Frankie, right? I want to give him certain permissions and capabilities only for him. So what I can do is I can actually create a role on my WordPress just for Frankie. And we do that by going to Add Role. And I can just call it Frankie S. It's an ID and then his name, or the display the role name. In this case, I'm going to call it Frankie Sparkplug. Frankie, why is Frankie with a red? Okay, maybe it's an IE. And then I am going to copy current abilities, if I want to, from one of these. So I'm going to choose editor. I want it to be more or less like an editor's role, and I'm going to say add role. And then after I have added that, the page will refresh and you will see here that Frankie has been added. If you want to play around with it and you go down this list, you will see all the permissions that Frankie has currently. He's got Brizy edit content only. Very interesting. You can see all these things have already been ticked. So you see, that is how you are going to then customize his role on this page. To show it to you, if you now go to, let's go to all users, because we have to change Frankie's role now. Frankie is currently an editor. We want to change his role. So we click on edit, or you could have said capabilities, but we're going to click on edit. And then we go here to role, all the way down to role. And here we're going to assign him to Frankie Sparkplug. That is his role, Mr. Sparkplug, and update the user. Now if I go back to the Brizy Role Manager and I look at Role Manager, you will see Frankie Sparkplug has been copied from the editor, so he's got limited access. And this is a very basic way that I just showed you how you can go around and create roles on your page. Most importantly, if you are making websites by yourself, nobody ever accesses your website or contributes. There's no reason for you to play around with users. If you are working in a team or co-authors or people that add, this becomes an important function. If you are working with a website that is often locked, for example, you have a club and your club isn't open, people need to log into the website to access the information inside, you will need to set up subscribers. You will need to set up roles for the different club members. You maybe have a chief club member, you maybe have a mid-level club member, and each one of them will have different permissions to your website, what they can do and what they cannot do. So the most important part is that Brizy controls what people can do in terms of pages content. Brizy doesn't control the other things. They don't control who has access to WordPress, who has access to posts. Those things are controlled by WordPress. And if you want more functionality, you have to install a plugin like User Editor Roles. There's a number of them out there, but this is an example of a good plugin. But at the end of the day, the role manager of Brizy only has 3 functions. Either you have full access to the page and you can edit it and you can make layout changes, you can do anything to that page. Limited access means all you can do is that you can input content like text. And of course, no access means you cannot access it at all. And that is Brizy Pro Role Manager.